Welcome back to the Deep Dark Truth. I'm Mo.
I'm Chip.
And I'm Mikey.
And today, all of our topics are listener requested. This is our listener requested episode.
Yay!
Yay! Audience interaction.
Mo, you're awesome.
Oh my god. So all the topics that we're going to cover today have been sent in by you, the listeners. Everything from celebrity imposters, SkyQuakes, Sky Trumpets, the Illuminati, and more. We'll just leave it like that. Maybe.
And other shit.
And some stuff.
But you don't care about our summary, you want to get into the sweet deets. Let's dive into the deep dark truth.
No.
It's the sweet one.
What the hell? What is happening?
We're hijacking your podcast.
We're going off script.
There isn't a script today. There's no script.
Can you not see me as Little Sweet and as talking tiny horse?
So first, we are going to talk about some celebrity imposter theories. Have you guys heard any celebrity imposter theories?
Imposters, no.
Do you know how far behind I am on celebrities? I just found out Liam Hemsworth broke up with Miley Cyrus. When did this happen?
They were dating?
What?
See?
They were married!
See how bad Chip and I are with celebrities?
In the Wrecking Ball era, I was very much like, oh, sweetie, what happened to you? What happened?
Oh, you thought something was wrong with her? I thought that was just normal.
That's par for the course when your life has been controlled by the Disney Channel. I'm just saying.
Yeah, celebrity life is not something I aspire to. Money, yes. Power, yes. Fame, no.
There's a kind of fame, musical theater fame, that people just meet you at the backstage door and then they leave you alone.
Yeah, there's...
You get to live your life. But the kind of fame where there's no hope of you ever living your life. That's the kind of fame.
Especially the ones who start super young. Leave Britney alone.
Leave Britney alone.
Britney Spears is going to be mentioned in this episode, but I think the real conspiracy is like how she's being controlled for her money by her father and the record company and various things. But that's a whole other... Yes. That might be a full episode. So we're going to talk about celebrity imposters. The first celebrity imposter we're going to talk about is Avril Lavigne.
Oh, yes. I've heard about this. Okay, it didn't click on what we were talking. Sorry. I'm a little invested in this one.
Really? You're invested in it? It's one of the only ones that I knew. Feel free to chime in at any time because I'm not overly invested in this one. The only one I'm invested in is Sir Paul McCartney. But we'll get there.
Oh, okay.
So, conspiracy theorists allege that a body double named Melissa Vandella, who was an alleged friend of Avril's, I don't know if that means that she actually existed, or if that's just like, oh, she was a friend of Avril's, and that kind of turned into the snowballed conspiracy theory. But anyways, they believe that Melissa replaced Avril sometime between her first and second albums.
That's pretty early on. Good for her.
The proof? You can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes. They're here. They're present.
Please see the show notes for a picture of Mo doing air quotes.
That's too much work. I'm not doing that. Just visualize it. Their proof is that Avril's official site, when she started her career, said that she was 1.58 meters tall, which is 5'2".
She
and
British?
Now, no, she's Canadian.
Oh, Canadian.
Yeah. I did the same thing. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, huh?
Clearly not American.
Is
Something's
this a
wrong
British
here.
site? And then I was like, no, she's Canadian, and I'm an idiot. I'm just like, those are the cold Americans up there until
you guys didn't know she was Canadian?
No, I did. That's what I'm saying. It took for a second for it to click, though, for me. Anyways, not the point. And now she is 1.55 meters tall, which is 5'1". But...
Oh my god, a whole inch?
Yeah, she lost an inch. Her official site was probably ran by a publicist, right? It's not as if they said, hey, Avril, let us measure you.
Oh, I'm sure someone said that in a much more inappropriate context.
Yeah. And she was like 14. So if she was 5'5.2, she's probably like, I'm 5'2". Because that's what you do when you're 14. You're just like, I'm rounding up to the nearest inch. And the nearest inch is always a half an inch bigger than I am. Like...
Rude, I still do that at 28.
I'm sorry.
I mean, what? I'm definitely 5'2".
Yeah, I think that the differences are gigantically different. That's for sure. I can't really understand how this started, except for the fact that they were like, well, she can't get shorter, and she got famous when she was young. Avril herself says that she's 5'1". Why is this a nail in a coffin? I don't understand.
I mean, I don't think that's one of the biggest things that's like makes it the imposter story.
Well, please enlighten me.
They say it originated from like a Brazilian fan page, and like they had posted on this fan page a conspiracy that Avril couldn't handle the pressure of being famous and like began using a friend who looked a lot like her. Not a friend, but you know how you become famous, people start to imposter you or like take pictures, like dress
an
up
impersonator.
like other people, you know. Impersonator.
Say if there was this guy called Joe Exotic and you
yeah, exactly,
did a live
exactly.
and you looked identical.
Exactly.
If you missed our live show, please head on over to our YouTube because Mikey is the best replica of Joe Exotic that you will see on the internet, point blank, period.
Porn coming to our Patreon soon.
You can also get a merch pillow with his face on it. Link in the show notes.
Cuddle Mikey Exotic to bed at night, to sleep at night, whatever.
Oh, dear Lord. But anywho, I have an impersonator of Elton John in my choir. Like, he looks exactly like him. He's been mistaken for him his entire life. He does, like, charity events and fundraisers and has been to, like, events all over the entire country impersonating Elton John. And I don't think that it's crazy to think that could have happened.
Why? Legitimately, though, why? So, even if she's 14, she can't handle the pressure of Skater Boy.
She said, see ya later, boy.
She starts paying her some of the money that is coming to be her. And
like, a bunch of albums released after that, though, so why would she settle for a tiny bit of money when she's then making new album under Avril's name? She wouldn't!
I mean, that's, she still has the imagery of that, of being Avril Lavigne. Anywho, Avril Lavigne got very sick, supposedly, as well. And that's a big part of the conspiracy theory, is that she got very ill and was in the hospital for a long time battling stuff and was not heard of or spoken to for a long period of time. And they think that she never came out of it. And this double stunt has become like her.
So the real Avril is dead in this one.
Yeah, correct.
Is it like the body double has taken over her life, or just like, hey, you can go be public me and I'll sit back and like write some music?
Like, took over her life if she's dead.
Well, before...
There's different conspiracy theories that they had changed places before she had died anyway. Like, this was a normal thing. Like, she couldn't handle the fame, couldn't handle the pressure, so they got somebody else to, like, take her place and relatively be her.
It's very convenient that she then dies and you already have a stunt double in place.
It's awfully convenient, for sure.
Murdered.
But, I mean, I think every celebrity has an impersonator who's extremely, extremely close.
Yeah, but it's not just that she's extremely close, it's also her voice. Like, her style of music changed, but you can tell that Let Go Avril, the voice is the same as Girlfriend Avril.
Subscribe to our Patreon to see Chip performing part of Girlfriend.
Allegedly, somebody would go back and say to you, the last album is completely different voice, and all the albums up to that, the real Avril was still singing. She was just being her stunt double. Like, she was still doing some performances and some things. She just couldn't handle all the fame. So she was doing, like, her press meetings and going, you know, whatever she had to do with the media kind of thing. not really the artistry behind it.
I can't speak to that because I only heard 2 songs off of her latest album.
And she could also still be alive. She's still using a stunt double.
Imprisoned in the attic.
You know? Did you find anything else differently?
Most of the sources specifically talked about this height difference, that people don't get shorter at that age. Everyone gets shorter.
Oh, yeah.
But not until they're older. But it's an inch,
right.
Man, and it's from a fan site.
Yeah, my driver's license says 5'8". I'm 5'7.5".
See?
Let's be real. But wait a sec. I just said that on a podcast, didn't I?
You did. I'm gonna send it.
I mean, I'm 5'9".
Who rounds
I'm 5'9".
down?
Who rounds down? Don't you round up 1.5 or something like that?
I'm 5'5". Whatever.
I don't believe this, but also I don't believe almost any of these, so...
I believe this one. And maybe I've delved down the rabbit hole a little further than most people have.
Specifically for Avril, or do you generally believe in the celeb imposters?
I believe that some celebrities have impersonators. I don't think it's often that celebrity and impersonators meet, let alone when they meet to develop a friendship or a business arrangement. I think it's very far-fetched for all of that to happen. But I do believe in this case of Avril Lavigne, she might have a stunt double. Or had a stunt double.
And now she's dead.
Or not dead. I don't know. I believe that she's not alive.
Ballerina murdered her because she stole her boyfriend. Even though she did not steal her boyfriend at all.
I mean, we as a country, or we as human beings on this planet, have covered up some crazier shit than Avril Lavigne dying.
See, our first episode confirmed conspiracies.
I am way too dedicated to Avril Lavigne to believe.
Because your life would be lie.
I love Avril Lavigne.
No, I can't do it.
Okay, you don't have to.
The heartbreak.
But I can believe the next one. So there's a theory that Megan Fox has been replaced by an android. There's all of these before and after pictures of her, and...
Oh, shut up.
I have advice for everyone. It's called plastic surgery, and rich people get it. Even some non-rich people get it, but let's be real. Disposable income. There's also a Pro Boards account dedicated to the entire theory. It's put forth by a whole bunch of different people. They say she has a blank stare. That's, I guess, android-like. I don't know. I picture Data from Star Trek when I think of androids, and no. They say that she looks cold and unfeeling, and that her reactions seem tempered or predetermined.
What?
Yeah.
So they've literally drawn this out and wrote the whole story?
Yeah, they just think she's an android, man.
That's weird. I don't know if I can get behind that.
Well, there's 13 pages worth of Megan Fox is an android.
Wow. That's crazy.
A lot of the comments refer to her as a model or an android, just various things that just show you that they already completely believe that she is not a human person.
So strange.
Anyways,
Fair
I
enough.
believe it. Decided.
Yeah?
Yep.
You just want to believe it.
I want to believe.
Speaking of doppelganger replacements, conspiracy theorists allege that Paul McCartney died and was replaced by a doppelganger in 1966. Allegedly, he was on his way home from a recording studio, was in a car accident, and was replaced by a man named Billy Shears, who had won a Beatles look-alike contest. They believe that they have proof of this in the form of camouflaged Beatles lyrics and the Sgt. Pepper's artwork.
I absolutely plan to put imagery in our merch that I am actually dead and replaced, so that's not...
They believe that the artwork and the camouflaged lyrics and all these hints were left by Ringo, George, and John that felt guilt-ridden for lying to their fans. They also believe that you can hear John say, "I buried Paul," at the end of Strawberry Fields. I'm going to keep it 100. He totally has to say that. It sounds like he said, I buried Paul. But in retrospect, like, that's from our point of view now. But if you look back, you will know that in early 1967, this rumor had already circulated, and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band wasn't released yet. Paul McCartney was doing interviews shortly after this happened. This hoax, ? That he had died, he started doing interviews, and it was press junket basically for the release of the album. He addressed the rumor a little bit, and the rumor was also acknowledged in an issue of the Beatles book, which was a fanzine that went out every month. The Beatles were really known for backmasking, basically like using hidden lyrics and meanings.
Yeah, because, the CIA was spying on some of them because of their songs.
But also, it was just a kind of a sign of the times. It made people more interested in their music. It was like a cult-like thing. It happened a lot in the 60s.
You had to kind of find the hidden meaning.
Yeah, and so it was kind of fun for them to do with their fans. And so, since the rumor was already out, who's to say that John Lennon didn't add that after this controversy started before they released the album? Because that's what I would do.
Oh, absolutely. Again, there's a sign on our Mikey Exotic merch that actually indicates that Mikey is dead and has been replaced by Joe Exotic, who now has a body double in prison.
That's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. I'm confused, but it's gorgeous.
Part of the other hidden lyrics proof that conspiracy theorists claim exists is in Glass Onion. So Glass Onion is a track on the White Album, and John Lennon wrote that song. And one of the lyrics says the walrus was Paul. It actually very specifically says, here's another clue for you all, the walrus was Paul. People allege that walrus, like I'm the walrus, cuckoo, cuckoo, get it? So people allege that walrus actually has to do with some kind of Nordic coding, and then it means death, because Paul was not the walrus. Paul was the hippo. And John was the walrus on the Magical Mystery Tour.
Right.
So they think that it's this clue that John Lennon is like trying to let them know that Paul is dead. Why would John Lennon wreck his career by saying that there is a cover-up? Also, Ringo Starr allegedly has like confirmed this theory in like a cheeky way. Which I would also do.
See, I think the whole thing is like that. I think they purposely put that in there, and they know what they're doing, and they're laughing about it.
I agree.
But that's just me.
But it is fun.
No, I think they're completely aware that they're using those lyrics, completely aware they're pointing it out, and laughing about the whole notion of that, like, making fun of the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it's funny that Mikey is dead and Joe Exotic is here with us.
Exactly.
But why, if your whole thing is secretly laying clues, would your clue be, here's another clue for you all? That makes me think that that's misleading, and it's actually a double bluff.
Unless there was a triple buff.
The triple bluff.
Well, because that happened. Okay, so before Sgt. Pepper is released, the accident happens, this alleged accident, and Paul's dead. Then Paul does an interview. Not dead, it was a hoax. Also, listen to Sgt. Pepper. People are talking about it still. No, he's really dead. No, he's really dead. They release Sgt. Pepper. After Sgt. Pepper's released, everyone's talking about how there's all these secret messages. So when they release the White Album, of course John Lennon is going to write Glass Onion. It's basically an entire response to all the things that were said about Sgt. Pepper.
Yep.
So John Lennon then says later, after this, that he was trying to be misleading to people. That was the whole point for him to say, here's another clue for you all. He was being purposely confusing.
It is the triple bluff.
It's amazing. Either way, it's amazing. It doesn't matter. It's my fave. Also, I'm a Sgt. Pepper girl. Like, Sgt. Pepper is my Beatles album. Like, if I have to pick a Beatles album, I pick Sgt. Pepper.
Do I have to pick one?
I mean, now you do. Pick one.
I think it's down to 2. Go ahead, keep talking.
This should just be something you know, I feel like, personally. It's like knowing your Hogwarts house.
I plead the 5th.
Chip does not listen to music, which I thought that you would at least be up to date on Beatles albums because it seems like an era of music that you would have been forced to listen to.
I mean, yeah, I definitely was exposed to the Beatles, but not like, I didn't like learn about them. I just heard some songs, and I didn't like care which album it was on. It was just playing in the car while we were driving to school.
Mo, this is tough, Mo.
Just go with your gut.
White Album.
That is the album in which Glass Onion is on.
Yeah, this Glass Onion song is definitely just John being like, guys, come on.
I'm gonna go with Abbey Road.
Yeah, most people
do. Wow. So disappointed.
I know.
I'm basic.
No, it's fine.
Yes, but it's fine.
Fine.
Yeah, you are, but it's cool. Oh, A Hard Day's Night is such a good album.
I don't really get albums in general.
It was a tough call.
So Paul is dead, confirmed. Moving on.
So I went to a Sgt. Pepper's in Illinois one time with my cousin. I was trying to figure out what city it was in, and evidently there's multiple Sgt. Peppers in Illinois. I'm like, okay, that's not helpful.
What's a Sgt. Pepper's?
It was like a restaurant, but it had the Beatles album artwork on the side of the building. I don't know, it's just a really rad place. Next up, we are going to talk about the Illuminati, because of course we are.
We're gonna get murdered.
So, the Illuminati really likes clones, I guess, and we're gonna take the term clones, and we're gonna put it in a box, and we're gonna save it for a second. We're gonna set it aside.
We're just gonna put a pin in that.
We're just put a pin in the word clone.
Put a pin on your conspiracy board, put a little piece of yarn leading to clones.
Wrap it around, tie it up, and leave it there. So Beyonce, Eminem, and Taylor Swift are just a few of the examples floating around the internet concerning the Illuminati. And no one seems to understand the actual scientific process of cloning, and that genetically cloned individuals would grow like a normal person. They wouldn't just come into existence as the clone person's age.
That's what a clone would say.
Do I have to explain this to people? Because I feel like I do.
Yes, you do.
What if there was a replicator accident while they were transporting Riker?
This is not Star Trek. Also, I want one of those replica Rikers. Okay, moving on. Beyonce. There is a theory that stem cells were taken from Beyonce in 2000 in case that she died. Obviously, because we're all doing that. I have to side note here, like, don't come for me, but Destiny's Child was not cloning status in the year 2000. Period. Like, they were not of cloning status.
They were not worthy to be cloned.
They were great skate music, they were radio music, but they were not of cloning status.
Take it back.
It's true. Is it
Take
not
it
true?
Back.
I'll prove that it's not true. What is the fourth Destiny's Child member's name?
Well, that's a trick question because there was 4, and then there was a new set of 1 left, and 1
what
came in.
What are their names?
And then, so there's 5 total, actually.
What are their names?
Actually, I think you'll find.
Don't Google it.
It's
You gotta think for too long, which means not of cloning status.
But we knew who the 3 of them were.
Yeah, but what year did Michelle enter Destiny's Child? Michelle had just joined Destiny's Child in 1999. So, yes. They weren't even the 3 for less than a year in the year 2000.
True.
There was no solo Beyonce. There was none of that. So if they would have cloned them, why wouldn't they have cloned all 3 of them if they were of cloning status?
Well, they knew who they were gonna escalate to stardom because this is all conspiracy. Yeah. Beyonce was put on a throne, not ascended to throne.
Yeah.
Let me keep going. Also, no.
It's easier. It's easier to control 1 clone versus 3. Right?
Obviously,
that's common sense.
Allegedly, Beyonce died. God rest her soul.
Oh my God!
In 2010, and then they cloned her. Guys, listen, please. Shh.
And they raised her to a.
Yes, listen to me. If they cloned someone in 2010. That person is 10 years old right now. Wait. keep with me. When you clone something or someone, such as a sheep, that sheep is then born and experiences the same growth rate as the, what is the word, originator? What is the word that we use for that?
What is the original clone called? Aside from original.
The source.
It would be the original and the duplicate.
Okay. It grows at the same rate as the original, because that's how its DNA is structured to grow. It would be like deformed. We grow at a certain rate for a reason. We can't just shoot up 6 inches in a month and
That's
have our body
you
change.
Think. Wink.
Anyways, that's not how cloning works. Please just stop.
Wait, on this planet or in...
I don't know about other planets and how gravity affects cloning, okay?
Transporters.
I would imagine you would grow somewhat quicker because of less gravity, but you wouldn't just age that dramatically. Anyways, Beyonce is our first Illuminati clone.
If you're in a spaceship and it's going, and so, like, time is different for you, so, like, everyone back on Earth has aged at X rate, but you've aged at Y rate, what if they launched Beyonce clone into the space and then brought her back?
That is not part of the theory. Why are we doing hypotheticals?
And how is she gonna survive? It just doesn't grow in space unless she's she's cryogenically frozen.
Hey,
wait, then
but
she's
still
frozen,
can grow.
but she's not aging.
Hey kids, create your conspiracy theories on your own time.
Okay.
Wait, that's the entire point of this podcast.
Isn't it?
The idea is that Beyonce decided that she wanted no part of the Illuminati, and that is why they cloned her, so that they had somebody who was easily controllable. And that will come up again later. The next person is Britney Spears, which is basically the exact same thing as Beyonce, except the alleged death of Britney Spears was in the 90s, and they cloned a series of Britneys. Multiple clones to be Britney Spears.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she has so many looks.
That's right. There's Shave Your Head Britney. There's Circus
Leave
Britney.
Britney alone.
Snake Britney. Latex Britney.
There's Britney just trying to be a mom.
Schoolgirl.
I will say that Phil Coulson is my favorite toxic clone of Britney. There's a lip sync battle that the guy that plays Phil Coulson does, Toxic by Britney Spears. It's beautiful. You should watch it. But later.
Finish this episode and then go watch it.
Yeah. That one, and watch Tom Holland, and then...
Now, is this series of clones like you clone the clone from the clone from the clone, or is it like an Eevee where they've all been cloned from the original Britney and evolved in different ways?
I don't know.
It's a Britney Lucian.
Yeah, we're gonna say it's an Eevee because it just makes me happy. But where's my gavel? Final answer.
But what you're saying is, though, that the Eevee still has to train and grow and evolve. It doesn't just
spring into existence as a Sylveon.
Yeah, right. It doesn't do that, right? That would be crazy. Okay,
we're getting
right?
too nerdy. We need to... Eminem! Conspiracy theorists say he also refused to join the Illuminati. Of course he did. And that he was replaced during his hiatus between 2004 and 2009.
Replaced during the hiatus, or?
Yeah, so he was replaced at some point during the hiatus, and then when he came back in 2009, that was the clone. That was the clone.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a second, it sounded like he was replaced only during the hiatus, and I was like, that's the wrong time to replace him. Illuminati, you're fucking up. But no.
Part of my problem, especially with the Eminem theory and the Avril theory, is that they both have kids and, like, spouses and things. In Avril's case, she's had 2 spouses, right? And I think that they would notice.
No, they're in on it, obviously.
Well,
the kids wouldn't have noticed
totally be
Avril,
in on it.
obviously, because they wouldn't have been born to Avril. They would have been born to Melissa. But, like, my cousin went to school with his kids, and I think they'd know. I'm just saying.
I mean, maybe they're in on it. Maybe the kids don't know, but the spouses do.
The kids are...
Come on.
Lied to their whole lives, and the spouse are given a lot of money to keep quiet.
So you think, like, a 12-year-old Haley would have been like, yeah, this is totally fine. This is cool. You don't think that they'd realize that the clone wasn't their dad? Also, it goes back to, you can't clone somebody and have them be the same person, the same age.
I don't follow. You see, I watched this documentary, The Next Generation.
Oh no.
In fact, you very rarely get clones that are grown separately. And when you do, they're at an accelerated rate.
Not buying it. Not buying these clones thing. I'm wondering if people have better things to do. Next.
After he was like at the beginning, Avril Lavigne is definitely dead in a hospital.
Yeah, how did you go from Avril Lavigne?
Because clones and Illuminati is way more far-fetched than an impersonator getting paid to be your stunt double. It's completely plausible and believable. These clones...
Anything is believable when you say the word Illuminati.
Right.
There's way too many people involved. This is my problem.
Agreed.
Should we go back to the confirmed conspiracies where entire government agencies are involved?
Oh, wait. Allegedly.
But a lot of those things were leaked. And that's why we know about them, because somebody eventually talked.
Yeah, and we know about these. Look at us, we're talking about
So
them.
T Swift was cloned too, right?
Allegedly, Taylor Swift is a clone.
She's the clone.
Satanist. She's the clone.
Plot
what
twist.
A freaking plot twist of this woman named Zena LaVey. She is the daughter of Anton LaVey, the man who founded the Church of Satan in 1966. There's a lot of 1966 floating around.
So this one works with your aging theory.
I will say that this woman does look.
It's upsetting.
A lot like
I just
Taylor
clicked the
Swift.
link. That I'm on board with this one.
I want to see
because it fits our aging problem.
The link is in the doc.
Also,
right
I love
under...
anything that involves
What
Satan.
Oh my
doc?
god, the one I posted.
Boomer. Editing Mo. Delilah goes here.
Okay, Boomer.
Yeah, she does look a lot like Taylor Swift. Those eyebrows, though. She does. She looks a lot like her. Is she a clone?
Yes.
I don't know why she would be. That's my number one. I want the why of it. If somebody can give me a true, concrete motive that isn't just because the Illuminati said, because this person said, New World Order. Like, if I could get anything,
Well,
I will latch on to
you
it.
see, as the daughter of the Church of Satan guy, she clearly comes from a place of influence, charismatic. She's able to, at least he was able to, certainly, rally the people around an idea. And she, as the daughter, becomes the sexy version of that. But then they want to be able to control her, so they make a Taylor Swift in which they have controlled us all with her sexy demonness. Case closed.
Okay. Also,
Don't you dare cut my speech.
It was like playing Slash with somebody. The Boogeyman and Freddy Krueger would totally go on a date. This is why. This is their intense backstory.
Yeah, I gave you the reasoning.
LaVey later left the church and she became a tantric Buddhist. So she doesn't really have any reason to protect the Church of Satan's secrets unless she's getting paid a bunch of money. I don't know why she would not go public with this information. Any amount of money pretty much that can be given, I feel like if she could somehow prove it, the media would
It's not the Church of Satan who cloned her, it's the government who cloned her after seeing how the Church of Satan did its thing. They were like, oh, we need to domesticate this. And thus Taylor Swift was born. I'm sticking with it.
Is that what it happened was?
This isn't as strong as our Titanic theory, but I'm sticking with it.
It is not even close to your Titanic theory.
I rest my case.
It's time to get away from clones. It's just time. Let's talk about Sky Quakes and Sky Trumpets.
Is this gonna be, like, religious?
Sky Trumpets lean more religious. The Sky Quakes run more the government's controlling the weather type of thing. So, Sky Quakes, a lot of people allege that that the noises that happen are because of weather warfare. That noise is bouncing off the atmosphere caused by NOAA or some other government entity that is participating in weather warfare. Which, by the way, though this sounds completely fake, Skyquakes themselves are a completely real thing.
Are we allowed to insert a clip here so the audience can hear it.
I will find some kind of clip of a Sky Quake noise and Sky Trumpet noises as we talk about those to try and give you guys a feel for what they sound like. So here is the noise that a Sky Quake makes.
Hold on, I'm looking up one for my own reference. Because I think you, played a trumpet one for me, and I was like, the fuck!
I did play a trumpet one for you. So Sky Quakes are described as, a distant, loud thunder when there's no clouds in the sky enough to generate any kind of lightning that would cause the thunder. And people that are familiar with the sound of cannons say that the sound sounds very similar to the sound of a cannon going off. So I guess they just polled a bunch of Civil War reenactment people. We're like, hey, what do you think this sounds like? And they were like, cannons. I know the sound of a cannon better than I know my own wife, I would say. Some possible explanations that have been given for SkyQuakes is that the loud booms are lightning from very distant thunderstorms that can't be seen, that it's large meteors that are entering the atmosphere and burning up, and that's causing the sound to reverberate through the atmosphere, that it's fracking or mining operations, or that it's some sort of supersonic aircraft. And the source for that is AccuWeather. Because so many people were like, hey, what's this noise? It's scary. It sounds like thunder, but not. Help us.
It's the sound of the spaceship shooting off with Beyonce's clone to age her faster.
Yes, and so AccuWeather was like, I guess we have to address this. This is a problem.
Yeah, the SkyQuakes are just... I'm not impressed by this one. It's the trumpets that are horrifying, because the SkyQuake, this is just thunder in the distance or something similar. This is just a government conspiracy. But the trumpets... Play them the trumpets, Mo.
Wait, we're not there yet. You're jumping ahead. Sky Trumpets and SkyQuakes have very similar explanations given for them, we'll say. But Sky Trumpets will have you take a listen to them right now.
Isn't that fucked up, listeners?
Chip is horrified by the Sky Trumpet.
It's like, why is the sky making this noise?
What the fuck? Oh, God. Yeah.
Mikey's eyes got so big. People liken it to the horns of the apocalypse. They also say that it kind of sounds like the part in a monster movie, like something like Godzilla right before or sometimes it kind of sounds similar to the noise that the smoke monster makes in Lost. It sounds like the smoke monster. As someone that has been binging Lost for the 17th time, I will tell you that some of them
really? Is it that good?
I love
really?
Smoke monster.
This is my legitimate 8th time watching.
I've never seen a single episode.
Legitimately. You should do that.
I don't know if I have the time.
was gonna say I have the time, and I'm still out there being an essential ass bitch.
Do you know what I am, Miranda? Useless.
Is that the opposite of essential?
Yep, it is useless.
Fade the episode out with that.
Go
bit.
home, peasant. You're useless. Oh no, it's so sad.
Anyways, the explanations for Sky Trumpets are very similar to the explanations for Sky Quakes that are given, and they all sound like bullshit. One of the explanations included methane gases. This is from Snopes. Snopes rated this a 50-50. Like, it's obviously happening, but it's probably not the apocalypse. And I was like, you haven't been to 2020 yet.
Wait, did Snopes confirm this?
I'm like, you don't know. You don't know anything, Snopes. Don't you tell me.
Oh, pass Snopes.
Sky Trumpets, a lot of YouTube videos started being posted between 2011 and 2013. And during this time, it's happening all over the world, and it's still happening today, but at that time it seemed the most prevalent, that it was happening the most. So Snopes says that most scientific research points to natural causes such as tidal waves, methane explosions, underground earthquakes, and shifting sand dunes. Listen, those noises do not sound like tidal waves.
Also, let's just rattle off 5 weird random things just that it could be.
Also, none of these things are related at all. I don't know how they could be all of these very wildly different things, but fine. And it sounds like something out of Men in Black. Like, it's like they're saying swamp gas. Like, it's absolutely methane explosions. That's just the 2017, whenever this article was written, version of swamp gas.
It is, 100%.
So I refuse to believe it. Straight off the bat. I'm done. I'm done with that. It sounds horrifying. Like,
where
it's
is
not
this heard
something you
at?
want to listen to right before you go to sleep.
It
Everywhere, all over the world. There's tons of YouTube videos where it's happening in all of these places all around the world.
And they all sound the same. Like, the sand shifting sounds the exact same as a methane explosion. Like,
they all sound so similar to each
an
other.
explosion.
To the point where listening from one source to the other, you think, okay, these have to come from the same place, but one place will be in Australia and the other place will be in Spain. And so it doesn't make sense.
So what do you think it is?
I don't know. I think if it's any of the things, that it has to originate from space somehow, or from the atmosphere somehow. Because it's the only way that I can see the noise being the exact same kind of noise in places that are
could it just be the earth? Could it
apart.
just be the Earth shifting, like plate tectonics, or like was that even mentioned?
No, because tectonics can't possibly be moving quick enough to create that noise for that short.
Unless the planet was in duress.
Yeah, but even then, the sound waves that would be produced by tectonic.
So you think
plates,
it's airborne?
I think it has to be, and both of these, so SkyQuakes and Sky Trumpets, are the only things that make me believe in the possibility. I'm not going to say I completely buy into all of it, but the possibility of either weather warfare or just in general, like using some kind of technology, be it whatever it is. It wouldn't be sonar because we know enough about sonar to be able to pinpoint it, but to believe in weather warfare because I just don't understand. I don't understand. And of course, I shouldn't go, I don't understand, so I'm just gonna buy the farm and just completely buy into this conspiracy. But it sounds like the apocalypse.
I mean, if I was thinking about what the apocalypse sounded like and what methane explosion sounded like, it would sound very similar to me. This doesn't sound like either.
It certainly doesn't not sound like the apocalypse.
So, I'll make an educated guess, and this has to do with air. This has to just do with air movement and sound waves. That's all it is. It's objects bouncing off one another, sound waves, air.
I guess I am thinking
something
a
to that
good old-fashioned Christian
that sound.
apocalypse.
It's not the space whales. It's not the apocalypse.
I would believe space whales before I believe...
You don't even speak whale. Mo, you don't even speak whale.
It is the space whales trying to communicate with us.
Especially not space whale.
Fuck off.
We're in space. Please save us like in Star Trek.
I'm very curious to know what our listeners think after listening to... I wish that I had some kind of instant satisfaction here.
About?
I wish I did. About their reactions to the Sky
Trumpets.
I
was still hung up on Avril.
They're terrifying.
I don't like when the sky yells at me and I can't see how it's yelling at me. Don't trust anything if you can't see where it keeps its brain.
Thanks, I hate it! We're going to get into our last listener-requested topic of the Dyatlov Pass incident, but first, let's hear from our Patreon sponsor. To have your ad read on the show, please visit our Patreon and look at the Rake tier. Do you have an image in your head that you can't get rid of, but your fingers were eaten by crocata and you're unable to hold a pencil yourself?
Do you need a logo for a new upstart project, but starting up Photoshop activates the ghost porn installed by the horny ghost daddies?
Has your brain been seared or titillated by the image of Mikey bottoming for the Muggy-On monster?
If this sounds like you, then get your commissions from Zandir, your run-of-the-mill poor college student.
They do a variety of art commissions, including SFW and NSFW illustrations.
They will also do commercial and non-commercial logo design for your personal business or project. For examples of their work, visit zandir.tumblr.com. That's spelled XAANDIIR. To email them for commissions or questions, send an email to zandir@gmail.com. Again, that's spelled XAANDIIR.
Stay weird, friends, and what's weirder than asking someone on the internet to draw something for you in exchange for money? Disclaimer, Zan will not draw Mikey bottoming for the Muggy-On monster unless it is specifically commissioned by Mikey or Deep Dark Truth affiliates.
Results may vary.
I might use our Patreon money to do that. Here's your Patreon money back, Zan. Thank you.
Yes.
That's being kept.
All right, let's get into Dyatlov Pass. Well, first, let me make sure I'm saying it right.
Dyatlov. You just gotta slur it. Dyatlov.
Dyatlov.
It'll sound like we went back in and dubbed it in, but it'll actually us be saying it naturally. Dyatlov.
I'm just gonna say Dyatlov.
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 They do call me Comrade nowadays, so it feels natural.
Conranda.
No, don't start that.
Wait, what were we talking about?
What were we talking about?
We were talking about how in 1959, the bodies of 9 students and alumni from Ural Polytech Institute that had been missing for a number of weeks were discovered. On January 27th, the group had started a 7-mile hike to the Gora Artorten. Listen, I'm just pretending I'm a dwarf and saying things, and don't come for me. Which is a mountain in the region, and they had plans of skiing, but due to weather, specifically a snowstorm, they ended up going off of their planned route. On the night of February 2nd, which was 5 days later, they made camp, and that is believed to be the night that they died. So far, it sounds like you could, really easily extrapolate the various things that could have happened to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were eaten by a polar bear, or they died of hypothermia, or they ate each other in, some Donner Party situation.
Or they got lost and separated.
Definitely thought this was going to be a Donner Party. I thought this was the Dyatlov Party.
Yeah, your mind automatically comes up with things that are probable, but this scene was not an ordinary one for several reasons. So let's go into a list of them. Their tent had been sliced open from the inside, and all of their belongings were still in the tent.
Okay, we're fleeing from something inside.
Some of the hikers were found as far as a mile, almost, from the tent. So they weren't all in the immediate area, they weren't all together. Some of them were barefoot, or they had just socks on, or they were only in their underwear. which led many to believe that they left the tent in a hurry.
Right.
As far as the tent went, since it was sliced from the inside, this kind of goes with that as well. I couldn't find any source saying what side of the tent had been sliced. But if you think about reasons to slice the tent open, right, is that something is blocking the entrance to the tent. Something or someone is blocking the entrance to the tent. And in the panic, you try to go out a different way, and there is no different way in a tent. So the only thing to do would be then to slice the tent open.
Yep.
Right.
So 4 of them were discovered in a ravine. Those 4 all had traumatic crush injuries, and some of them were buried under 13 feet of snow.
What?
But not all of them.
But not all of them. So they were broken up into a couple groups. There was like 2 men that were found together, and then there were those 4 people that were found together, and then 3 of them were found between the fire and the tent. Sounds like it was just one tent, but it was like a big 10-person tent that they were all going skiing together, being in the same tent, which I think is also important for one of the theories later on. Those ones that were found in the ravine that had the pressure and crush injuries, the tongue of one of them had been ripped out. Just the tongue. Nothing else. But otherwise on that person, no external injuries.
I'm thinking of cow cultists who are doing something similar right now in America.
There was no, like, marks of him being tied up, or...
Nope. Just...
How do you rip out a tongue if somebody's not tied up? Or
fuck if I know. I mean, I guess it is kind of my job to think about that's what the whole point of us is, really. But I got nothing. Unless the tongue was ripped out after he was already dead. Tests conducted at that site, they did both the bodies and also their clothing. It showed trace amounts of radiation. With all of these strange things happening, the investigators decided that they would classify this as they had died from some, quote, natural force that they were unable to overcome.
Literally anything.
Being buried under snow.
A heart attack.
Hypothermia.
Everyone who dies.
Gravity. Gravity is a force I could not overcome. Yet.
So it could be an avalanche, it could be hypothermia, which the official cause of death for pretty much all of them was hypothermia. And something that happens when you have hypothermia is your body starts basically kind of hot flashing. Your body gets so cold that it starts thinking that it's warm, and people will start undressing. Problem with this, though, is that they were all sharing a tent together. You would think that between the 9 of them, plus their clothes and blankets and things, it isn't like they just got lost in the woods. Like, they had a fire, they had their clothes, they had blankets, they had each other, they were all sharing a tent, so body heat is going to start to build up. And so the fact that they would all get hypothermia at the exact same time and, like, cut themselves out and just have this weird mass hysteria where they all break off into groups.
And somebody rips their tongue out.
Yeah, doesn't make sense to me. I mean, getting hypothermia after leaving the tent, but to me, there has to be some initial reason that they even got out of the tent to begin with.
Well, yeah, that doesn't feel like the reason you leave the tent. You've already had some sort of psychotic break in the tent.
I'm most interested to go back to the radiation thing.
Patience, young Dyatlovian.
We can go to it, like, right away.
Less patience.
So, I'm just guessing, like, with radiation, did somebody put something in the tent, some type of material or gas or something that would cause them to panic and slice open the tent to get out?
I don't know a lot about radiation as a gas.
Did they, like, show any signs of choking or anything like that?
I mean, the guy was missing his tongue. He could have choked on it.
I think they would have found it in his stomach and said, we found his missing tongue, it was in his stomach.
Well, I don't know his life, and I don't have autopsy reports for him, okay?
I have recently been given a very high standard of your access to documentation.
Yeah. I'm on a different level now. I expect coroner's reports, autopsy reports, police reports.
Was there any reports of alcohol or drugs or hallucinogens or anything?
Tell me about the ketamine.
But I don't know how great their toxicology was at this point in time. It's 1959.
They could have all been doing ecstasy and having a massive orgy, and it just got too hot
I don't think they were doing
and...
ecstasy.
I support the orgy, but
If I was with 10 people in a tent on a ski trip,
we didn't ask
that
you.
is the first idea that I would get, would be to bring Molly for everyone. And they probably didn't drink enough water, they got too hot, they had to escape the tent, and then they all tripped out and froze to death.
And that's why they're in various states of undress.
I would subscribe to that if this happened in, 2012.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's 1959.
Yeah, that's for sure what happened.
Sure, they were going on a skiing trip.
Okay, wait. So 6 of them died from hypothermia, officially, and 3 of them died due to injuries.
Do you see specific injuries for those, or it just says injuries?
Those are the people that I believe that were found in the ravine that had the crushing injuries, which is very strange that it wasn't blunt force trauma,
yes.
from falling down into a ravine, which I have, done. I'm an idiot. 2 of them that were under the tree, they had burned hands. So, what? What?
They tried to warm themselves. That makes sense.
Yeah, which means that the fire was still going, probably, so... And then the 4 that were found in the ravine also weren't found until 3 months after the incident. So basically they were trying to canvass, lots of them were buried in snow, they couldn't find the other ones, the other 3 people, and then they found them in the ravine.
I'd be more interested in finding out the relationship between all of them, and
well, they were all
that.
students or former students at a university that was... how many miles away it was? I want to say it was 100.
Were they close, though? Were there couples involved? Were there exes involved?
I don't know if there was exes or couples involved, but they were all going to ski. So you have to think that they're probably pretty amicable if they're going to spend time in a tent together and go skiing together.
People. Somebody cheated with someone, so they burned the 2 hands of the cheaters, and they ripped out the tongue of the person who told.
Why do you always want there to be some kind of sex scandal?
I mean, he's not wrong to start there.
Yeah, love is usually the reason.
You're gonna do that in front of 6
a homicide.
Other bystanders?
Yeah, they all knew about it.
They're involved in various capacities.
So why? So the last one killed themselves?
Jealous lover.
That's your final.
He didn't kill himself. He's still out on the loose.
They found all of them.
Wait.
No, the jealous lover didn't go camping. He didn't go camping with them.
But he followed them.
But he knew where they were going
the front of
and
the tent,
followed
so they
them.
tried to run out the back.
Also, it's called paradoxical undressing, by the way, when you have hypothermia and you start undressing yourself because you believe that you're hot. So, of the bodies found in the ravine, 2 of them had fractured ribs, and then 1 of them had a skull fracture.
They're specifically crushing injuries is very interesting.
It says that the force required to injure somebody that severely would have to be the force of a car crash.
So we'll say 50 miles an hour?
Now I'm going with witchcraft.
In terms of radiation, so one of the investigators that worked on the case to begin with, Lev Ivanov, his theory was that there were these fireballs, moving balls of fire in the sky that were reported by eyewitnesses around the time of the Dyatlov Pass incident. So he later said that possibly these fireballs had something to do with it that would link back to the radiation at somehow. That theory was actually proposed years and years later. But that theory has also been challenged by another author, Eugenie Bayanov, a guy with a name that I'm gonna call Eugene Bayoff. And he says that he found no verifiable reports of UFOs or any other kind of suspicious balls of fire in the Urals on those dates. So it's kind of interesting because it's proposed by one of the investigators that actually had been on the scene and seen everything, but also so much time had passed that you start to say, hey, maybe a little too much time has passed for you to be proposing this kind of theory, right? Some people also think that it had something to do with aliens, somehow, that there was some kind of close encounter that left the radiation, because of course aliens are involved. Also cryptids. Some people think that cryptids, Yeti specifically, that was actually proposed in a Discovery Channel documentary in 2012 called...
This is Yeti Slurs.
The name of this documentary was Russian Yeti, The Killer Lives. And I want to see this so badly. Like, I cannot explain to you how much I want to see this. I want to make merch of, like, a Yeti with a gun smoking a bowl. Like,
And a vodka. Yeah. And a vodka bottle.
Yeah. Yeti orgy.
Just Russian Yeti getting hammered and has, like, a... I don't know why I'm, like, proposing this. I just want a gangster Russian Yeti. That's what I want. I want it on a shirt.
Murdered by the Russian Yetis.
He could be a Russian asset. You don't know about Yeti's life. You don't know what he's been through.
I just don't want this slander in his name. Of course he didn't murder this orgy.
Yeah, I'm going with jealous lover on this one.
Yeti is the jealousy lover this time? Wait.
No.
That's ridiculous.
No, that's ridiculous. I would never dream up that, Mo.
Obviously, there's long-standing lore of Yetis inhabiting Siberia and the Ural Mountains, also known as the Abominable Snowman.
The slander I am hearing against the Yeti.
I mean, allegedly. So there's also something called the infrasound hypothesis. In 2013, this book written by Donnie Icar was written called Dead Mountain, The Untold True Story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident. And in this book, he proposed that the skiers were driven to hysteria by infrasound waves caused by a weather phenomenon such as a Kármán vortex strait. I know you're going to ask what the fuck is that, and I got nothing.
Nope. I don't need any. I'm signing up for this theory.
I don't need more details. I'm already in.
These Kármán vortices, they are these kind of swirls that happen. Wind blows past an island, and these atmospheric swirls form this downwind side that aren't really visible to the eye. So if you look up at the sky, there's all these swirls that kind of like can look like crop circle-esque or just like a continuous wave pattern, etc. So if you have a pencil and you put that pencil in a glass of water, the water will go around the pencil, right? Because it's a solid object. But the water near the surface of the pen or pencil or whatever, as long as it's a cylinder, the water slows and it kind of piles up on top of where the object is underneath the water. And the water farther down the cylinder is moving faster. And that makes these like little vortices form. And it makes these curls in the water effectively. First of all, I still don't understand it. Also, I still don't understand how that could possibly cause this infrasound, because I can't find any direct references to the infrasound. Okay, I don't like this theory because it's not fun. And
this was boring.
The benefit of this theory is that it does look like they all kind of went fucking nuts.
I mean, yeah, but they could have had hysteria for any other reason. Like, what if they saw bears earlier in the day and then they thought they heard something outside the tent? Like, that would cause hysteria. There's so many things that could cause a quick mass hysteria in that kind of situation where you're in the woods, in the middle of nowhere, during a snowstorm.
Yeah, and bears are mean.
No. What? That was not a point. First of all.
Yeah, bears. Yeah, bears are mean. It could have been a bear that was at the front of their tent, scaring the shit out of them. So they all ran in different directions, couldn't see. 3 of them fell down a ravine.
You don't know who it was. Stop playing bears. Don't blame bears.
Stop playing bears.
A bear is highly likely. They ripped open the tent so they couldn't stay warm anymore, so they tried to stay warm. 2 of them burnt their hands trying to stay warm.
Okay, let's go back to the avalanche hypothesis. Okay, I talked about the avalanche hypothesis earlier because some of them were buried under 13 feet of snow. So I would say this is absolutely a hypothesis and not just conjecture, right? This is a supported, educated guess.
Mm-hmm.
If they could have heard the avalanche starting, because obviously it didn't cover the tent, right? Let's just assume there's an avalanche. Because it didn't cover the tent, they still would have heard that avalanche coming. They would have heard noises. I'm sure it's like a freight train coming right for you with the amount of snow that is on that mountain. They might have just thought that it sounded closer than it was, fled from the actual tent site. Somebody out the back can't get to the front of the tent because other people are running there. They're like, fuck this shit, I'm out. I'm just gonna slice open the tent. And they all kind of scatter in different directions in different pairs of 2 and 3. Right? Everyone's just trying to get away from the noise, get away from the site. And as they're doing that, some people run in the wrong direction and the avalanche does hit them. And that's how they get there.
Right. Some of them accidentally go off a ravine.
Yeah, because they're running in the dark in the snow.
Some fell on a campfire. Literally fell on the campfire. Burnt their hands.
Well, if you're running out of the tent, the campfire was directly in front of their tent. It was quite a few feet, but they're running in the dark. You know, maybe the fire's mostly out, but not all the way out.
The coals.
Maybe they fall onto the coals. I think this one's solved. Gotta go.
It's likely, too, if they were holding hands trying to get away together, that they both fell in the same spot.
We're just solving things all the time here. That's what we do. Close cases.
I think that's a very solid theory.
Regarding the positions of the bodies, I have information.
Please do.
So, we've got 9 bodies in total. 2 bodies are both men. They are barefoot and near remains of a fire at the edge of a forest. 3 bodies, 2 men and a woman, are found between the fire and the tent.
Yeah.
Plus the other 4, which is 3 men and 1 woman, at the bottom of the ravine. So, Mikey, make with this of you will for lovers. The 2 men at the fire were in love, but the other 3 didn't approve, so they were going back.
So some of them died within, 15 feet of the tent? I mean, if they're in between the fire and the tent, right?
No, it's not 15 feet. It was a fire built somewhere else.
Oh, it sounded in the article that I read that I was quoting from earlier, it sounded like in between the tent and the fire wasn't very far.
Disappeared after 500 meters.
Those are a different fire.
They didn't find the ones down the ravine until 3 months later. So I think the footprints were their footprints that were found scattering from the scene into the woods.
Okay.
And then they didn't find those bodies until 3 months later.
But some of them had died within close vicinity to the tent, right?
Yes.
That sounds like foul play, doesn't it?
To me, the fire doesn't sound like it's in close vicinity to the tent.
I assumed that was their campfire, and that the 2 men had ran off and then had to build a fire somewhere else. They ran away from the tent from from an avalanche, from a bear. Not from a bear, from a Yeti.
Probably a bear.
They're lovers.
From a Russian murderous
It could have been a bear. It could have been a bear. None of them had any attack marks, though, right?
No.
But it could have scared them.
I mean, yeah, it could have scared them. Their shadow could have scared them in the woods during a snowstorm in the middle of the night. An axe murderer could have scared them.
So they obviously had to flee the tent area, obviously, right?
Yeah, for some reason, they fled the tent area.
But why did only some get not very far? That doesn't make sense.
I think possibly some were coming back, which is another thing. So the ones that were found in between the tent and the fire, some people extrapolated that they were possibly trying to go back to the tent after whatever happened.
But died from hypothermia.
Yeah, so let's say they heard something, they thought maybe it's an avalanche, we need to get the hell out of here.
And then once it was safe, came back.
It was echoey because of the trees and the mountains. It happened over there. We need to start making our way back to the tent. By this point, they've been out of the tent in their underwear in the middle of the night during a fucking blizzard, and they're like, I'm dying. So there was meteorological data that was compiled talking about the temperatures in the vicinity of where their camp was, and it went from -11 to -25 degrees on the night of February 1st, so the night before, and there were wind speeds up to 16 meters per second, so...
That's fast.
So 3 feet in a meter, Jesus, that's 24 feet per second. It's
fast.
That's many. That's very many.
And even with those things outside of the tent. So if they're outside of the tent with the wind and how cold it is for nearly any amount of time.
All of this explains everything except for the tongue being ripped out.
Sure does it. I mean, it could be those foxes that we heard about. Foxes.
Nothing is crawling inside of a mouth and ripping out a tongue and not eating the lip first.
Maybe his mouth was already open and the Yeti wanted to make out with him, and when he didn't reciprocate, he bit off his tongue. Or the fox. Sorry, never mind. We were going with the fox theory. The fox was like, that's the tasty part. I want that part.
What if he licked something and got stuck to it and had to rip his tongue off to get free?
Did any of the other men's dicks have a tongue mysteriously attached to them?
No, I would have said that when Mikey was talking about his lover theory. I would have definitely hit on that.
You know the Russians would have covered up that. There's absolutely no chance that news would have gotten out to
Also, the
public.
avalanche does not explain the radioactivity. But I don't know of anything that really concretely does explain the radioactivity aside from UFO. Okay, so the theories for Dyatlov Pass are avalanche, Yeti, UFO, fireball. Oh, back to the UFO thing. UFO lands on the mountain, causes an avalanche, leaves behind the radiation, fucks off because it caused the avalanche. People die of the avalanche. People fall down the ravine. People die of hypothermia. Still UFOs.
Yeti tried to warn them, came to the tent front, scared them all. They try to escape through the back of the tent.
That's it. All comprehensive theory.
Yeti survives. Also, it turns out, Mikey, include this in your theories. It was the woman who had her tongue cut out,
and the two guys had the burnt hands, right?
Important.
They went off together to build a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, by the time they were able to get the fire going, they were probably so cold, they decided to put their hands, like, right on the fire, practically.
Should we automatically assume that the two of them went off together, that they were homosexual?
They could be bi, they could be pan. Let's not jump to conclusions.
True.
Yeah, don't assume their sexuality. They weren't straight, though.
Oh.
They weren't straight, so go ahead and assume that. No. They could be straight and just be brothers, but they're definitely not bros.
I'm just saying there were 9 people on that trip and only 2 were women.
So I do think it's an avalanche, though.
Yeah.
I think the sound of the avalanche is what prompted them to leave the tent, because there's no other way that they could be buried under 13 feet of snow. Except for avalanche, right? Like, nobody shoveled 13 feet of
onto
snow.
some of the bodies.
If you heard an avalanche, like, with the chance of you cutting open the tent, or would you just wait to get out the front?
Depends on how loud it is.
And if I was all the way at the back, and there were 8 other people in front of me, and I had a knife, like, in my pocket...
Well, that's not true. You would cut the other 8 people. But that's you specifically.
Get out of my way!
No, it doesn't feel like... Why is this a big mystery? It seems like it should just be an avalanche.
Well, because of the radiation. The radiation
It's
is
Russia
really
in the 50s. I didn't exist and I was irradiated.
They did go to a university. Who knows what kind of things that they were doing in chemistry in the 50s, what kind of toxic materials they might have worked with, how close that college could be to any kind of radiation facility. I'm sure it wasn't contained very well. Cough, Chernobyl, cough.
All this time I thought Dyatlov was like the name of the place they were. No, it was one of the guys. It was the leader of the group.
The entire time I was like, why is this called this? That's not the name of the mountains.
So if you have a less mundane theory than avalanche, hit us up.
Also, keep requesting different episodes, different things that you want to see. Send us tips, and we'll be sure to include them in a future episode. We're probably going to be doing a couple different listener requested episodes. Every few months we'll do one. This one we didn't get around to immortal celebrities, so that will be on the top of the agenda for the next time. Dorothy Kilgallen, that's getting made into an entire episode. Until next time, I'm Mo.
I'm Chip.
And I'm Mikey.
Hey!
You just listened to the Deep Dark Truth Podcast. See you next time. And remember, your local cryptids want to meet you.